Hey there, GlamFam, Linwood here, and today we're going to be talking about hair typing. Now, this is a source of a lot of confusion within the natural hair community mostly, but it's been something that's been kind of surging through the internet for several years now that became popularized by Oprah stylists, and I wanted to break it down for you a bit more so you can better understand the typing system, what its benefits and drawbacks are, and my general thoughts about it altogether. Let's dive in. So as I stated earlier, Oprah stylist Andre ended up creating this system of hair typing to help people specify their hair type, what it was capable of doing, what it was incapable of doing, things like that. Now, of course, with that, you've seen people take the natural hair movement and throw it into all sorts of different divisions or branches of groups for 3B, 3C, groups for 4A through 4C, groups for this and that, or trying to exemplify one texture above another. That's not really what this was intended for. It was actually intended to help people understand what it was their hair could do, and I want to share with you guys some different attributes. But before we even jump into any of that, many of you are probably wondering how the scale goes. So for those who don't know, you have a scale of from 1 to 4, and we'll go ahead and go through that now. So type 1 hair is straight hair. You don't see A, B, and C because straight is just straight. So type 1 is just it. It's just straight. Now, don't ask me why it is that straight hair came first, whatever the case may be. That's just the way the system was written up. I'm not responsible for that. So don't be trying to come for me in the comments talking about how come straight hair had to be number 1 and this hair had to be. I have nothing to do with that. I'm just helping to explain to you what the system is so that way you can understand the jargon that's being out here in these streets, okay? So at any rate, we've got type 1 hair, which is straight hair. This is a rather uncommon hair type. You don't see it in a lot of communities. It tends to be more so in Asian communities, some Latino communities. You don't really see it a lot, even in Caucasian hair. Most Caucasian hair has at least a slight wave to it, which leads us on to type 2. Type 2 is wavy hair. And now, of course, with that, you've got type 2A, type 2B, and type 2C. The letters in this instance indicate the tightness of the wave or the tightness of the curl. So you've got type 2A, which is a very loose wave, type 2B, which is a medium wave, and type 2C, which is a tighter wave here, just a step underneath a curl. You guessed it, that leads us on to type 3. Type 3 is curly hair. So I fall in the type 3 category. I'll show some pictures of when my hair is down for those who are not regular subscribers of this channel. But you've got type 3, which is curly hair. You've got 3A, which is more of a loose curl. You have 3B, which is somewhere in the middle, and 3C, which is a curl. It's just a step under a coil. I tend to be classified more so as 3C, although some sections of my hair are 3B. I also have certain sections that are more coarse, but we'll deal with coarse versus fine moving on forward. I don't want to confuse you too much because coarse has nothing to do with your curl pattern whatsoever. From there, we have type 4. Now, type 4 is the area where a lot of people get confused, and to be honest with you, YouTube is heavily to blame for that. So let's dive into type 4 and what it is. Type 4 is coily and kinky hair. So, and it's two things and it gets a little confusing. I'll explain why. So at first you just had type 4. It was like type 1. It was just by itself. But then after the chart kind of got started, a lot of people were finding that they didn't quite fit in there. So after having 4A, 4B was added. Now 4A is more of like imagine a phone cord, an old school phone cord obviously, but it's tightly coiled in there, but it's not extremely tight. This texture is excellent for locking, it's excellent for comb coils, excellent for finger coiling, things like that. But it's not to be confused with other textures, which I'll dive into later because I have some pet peeves about it. Then we have 4B. 4B is not coily or curly at all. When it's dry, it looks a lot like another texture, which we're getting to, but it's actually a type of its own altogether, and it's more of a zigzag type of texture, and it has kinks and bends and things like that, but it doesn't have a defined curl or ringlet to it at all. Then you have 4C. Now 4C is where a lot of people get confused, and it honestly makes, well, I'll explain more to you in a moment. So with 4C, 4C is a very tight coil pattern. This is honestly my favorite pattern because it is the most versatile out of all of the hair types, but it doesn't get a lot of love, especially in the natural hair community. And I think a lot of people see content that's made for them that isn't really for them. The reason for this is because so many people on YouTube are actually 4A and are presenting their content as being for 4C individuals. It makes a lot of people feel as though their hair is nowhere on the scale. And so I hear a lot of people that are saying that they have 4Z hair, which is not a thing at all. Or they say that their hair is off of the charts or off the scale, whatever the case may be, and it just leads to a lot of mass confusion because honestly, people know that people are looking for 4C content. So if they have 4A hair, instead of just presenting themselves as type 4, they present themselves as type 4C, knowing it's going to get clicks and views, when truth be told, while your hair may look like it's a different curl pattern because it's dry and it's picked out, when you wet your hair, that is going to be the true determination of whether your hair is 4A, 4B, or 4C. So we'll kind of deal with this a bit more. Now, a lot of people ask me, like, what type of gel should I be using for my 4C hair or for my 4A hair, things like that. And honestly, your curl pattern doesn't have a lot to do with the products that you use, but it does have something to do with it, and I want to deal with that momentarily. So you'll find the higher your number is, the more you'll need to reinforce and instill moisture in the hair. By now, you might be wondering why. Well, let's make this a little bit simpler. So everyone's scalp produces a certain degree of natural oil. So you can see here, I've got a straighter hair texture, something closer to type 1. And I've got, this one honestly is more like type 3 because they don't really make mannequins that are quality in type 4 yet. Hopefully they're coming. But you'll notice the difference between these two hair textures. Now, both scalps will produce oil. The problem is, on this one, the oil is able to slide down the scalp, and that natural oil that your scalp produces is an excellent moisturizer. It is unlike any other oil that you can find that is outside of the body, and it is just more efficient at moisturizing the hair. That being said, you'll find a lot of times straighter hair stays more moisturized, more shiny. It's able to deal with a lot more abuse because that natural conditioner is flowing down onto the hair a lot easier. So you'll find that hair textures like this, while they still need moisture to thrive, they benefit more so off of your liquid moistures like this here in terms of leave-in conditioners, things like that, or a lightweight conditioner for moisture instead of a heavier cream-based moisturizer, because their oil is doing that quite a bit. You'll also find marketed to this texture and to type 2 textures, you'll see a lot more marketing towards dry shampoos, things like that, to help extend them in between wash days so their hair still looks clean rather than looking excessively oily, because you don't want it to look stringy and oily when your hair texture is like this here. Now, as you move on down the hair type scale to types 3 and 4, you'll notice hair begins to defy gravity. Because of it defying gravity, what ends up happening is that oil, instead of it flowing down the shaft of the hair because the hair is going up, it's now flowing down onto the face, which means those conditioning qualities are really doing more for the skin and keeping the skin moisturized, while sometimes making it more acne prone as well. But you'll also find that this is why people often say things like black don't crack. That's because that moisturizer, that conditioner that typically would flow down the hair on straighter textures, is flowing onto the face on more coily textures. It keeps the skin more supple, soft, and youthful looking as a result because it's keeping it moisturized. So instead of supplementing as much moisture on your skin, you end up having to supplement moisture on your hair instead. I hope that makes sense. This isn't to try to throw anyone under the bus or shade anyone, anything like that, but this is really trying to give you guys the best information possible. So as a result, you'll find usually with hair patterns that defy gravity, you've got to instill a lot more moisture, supplement a lot more moisture into the hair. So a liquid may not always be as good for the hair unless the hair is really fine. And now if you want to understand the difference between fine, medium, and coarse hair, I do have another video on that, and I'll link it in the eye in the top right corner, as well as in the description box down below. So for coily textures, for curly textures, even for certain waves, you may find that a spray cream leave-in conditioner, something like that, works a bit. A spray cream leave-in conditioner, something like that, works a bit better on the hair. The cause for this is because it's adding more richness to the hair and helps you to kind of seal a bit more. It's a bit thicker, so you're able to instill more moisture into that hair. Now, on even more deficient hair types, you'll find that standard creams, like this one here, end up working a bit better because you can see it's much thicker. So it's helping out not only with moisturizing, but with sealing a bit more moisture in the hair and giving a bit of a thicker, richer moisture. Same thing for these here. And you'll notice all of these are pretty low because we use them all in our house at some point or another. And we've got hair types that need all types of moisture here. So I want to make sure that we're kind of covering all of our bases there. Now, you'll also find that as you move on down the hair typing scale from 1 to 4, you also find more of a need for sealing that moisture in. The more curly your hair is, the more moisture deficient it typically is because it does defy gravity. So a lot of times it's not enough just to have a moisturizer on there. You also typically have to seal it with a silicone, an oil, a butter, something like that on the hair, which honestly a butter is an oil too, but that's for a whole nother video. That being said, it can get a little confusing for a lot of people. Now, there are things that you need to understand when you're looking at certain hair types. So for instance, I have to naturally know that type 1 hair is not going to do finger coils. It's not possible for that. So that's where hair typing comes in well. Whereas type 3 hair might be okay with locking, type 4 hair is excellent for locking. So understanding that is a lot better as well. If you're trying to do 2-strand twists out, or updos where you're using 2-strand twists, things like that, usually types 4A and 4C are better for that, whereas type 4B, because it doesn't have a curl pattern at all, is a little bit less likely to stay together in those twists. It does come unwound a lot easier. So you'll find that if you have 4B hair, your hair benefits more so from braided hairstyles than it does from anything else. So I know this has been a lot of information to digest, and that being said, if you want more information and some visual guides to help you understand this process, as well as the difference between texture, density, porosity, and hair typing, because porosity, texture, and density have way more to do with the type of products that you choose, make sure to check down in the description box down below. You can get my free 6-page hair care guide, and you can join the Healthy Hair Challenge, where I'll send you 5 different days worth of content to be able to help you get healthier hair and to understand your hair better at whatever type you have, and be able to see your hair thrive, grow, and retain a bit more of that length. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure to click the link down below. Everything is completely free, and I hope that this video has been beneficial for you. If you have additional questions, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you found this video to be beneficial, please share it with a friend, because I would like to help spread the word that way. One of the best things you can do to help us and help our content reach more people is to share it and to click the like button. So we appreciate that from you. Until next time, you guys, take care, God bless, and stay glam. And you know I love you, boo. Bye.